It was news some were desperately waiting to hear. People who forked out hundreds or even thousands of dollars for trips on Air Canada only to have them cancelled. Samantha Kemp has been fighting to have a flight reimbursed for months.
The fact that it took the government to step in and also took the government this long is kind of ridiculous to me.
There will be no further job losses.
The deal gives Air Canada access to about $5.9 billion, most of it in low-interest loans. About a quarter of it is supposed to target reimbursements. Now, giving that money back to consumers would have been a challenge for a company that's burning through reserves, has laid off more than 20,000 workers, and canceled about 95% of flights.
It's a couple $1 billion. The
reimbursements, this airline expert says, may not have happened without Ottawa's help and pressure.
The optics are very positive about paying the money back, and the government gets a lot of brownie points because they're the ones that, in effect, forced them to do it, but also provided the means to be able to do it.
Now, there is one part of the deal that has surprised some observers. Ottawa is buying shares in Air Canada, about 6% equity. One reason to do that may be the potential return if airline stocks rebound post-pandemic.
Then the Canadian government can rightly crow about the fact is that they made a wise investment, and not only did they get the loan money back, but they actually made money on it.
Under the deal, Air Canada also agrees to restore regional routes it suspended. Flights to places like Comox, BC, and Sydney, Nova Scotia have to be back up by June 1st. The deal also limits what Air Canada executives can make. The company's last CEO took home more than $11 million pre-pandemic. That isn't supposed to happen again for a while.
Executive compensation is restricted under the terms of this agreement. There is a cap of $1 million. Total compensation.
The big question now is what happens to the other Canadian airlines. WestJet and Air Transat are both in negotiations. Observers expect those deals could come soon, with the Air Canada arrangement acting as a template. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
With me is our senior business correspondent, Anne Gaviola. And all the airlines are asking for help. Why Air Canada first?
Well, it is the most international, in addition to being the largest airline that we have here in Canada. And by that, I mean that its rivals, which are based in the US and Europe, have already seen targeted funds, targeted relief from their federal government. So this is kind of an attempt to level that playing field, if you will. It's also an opportunity to give Air Canada a chance to protect, to keep its spots in international hubs, those spots that it has in airports in other countries that are important for connections. And a lot of those airports have policies where if you're not operating out of them, you lose your spot. And there are plenty of low-cost regional carriers that are willing to jump in and get in there. That's going to be important for Air Canada to keep its competitive edge as we get to the other side of this.
This is a repayable loan, not a bailout per se. What's the likelihood the billions of taxpayers' dollars will be paid back, and when?
That's a really good question. Now, according to the analysts I've spoken with today, they tell me that the chances of Air Canada repaying this money is actually quite good. And keep in mind the way that this deal has been crafted, there are strings attached. There are limits in terms of caps on executive compensation. There are restrictions on share buybacks. There's even that environmental reporting piece of it. So these are strings attached that have been described as pretty onerous. What we've seen in the U.S. is that there has been a reluctance from airlines to take government money that it doesn't need because they don't want to deal with any of those conditions, and it really does incentivize them to repay that money back more quickly.
All right, our senior business correspondent, Anne Gaviola in Toronto. Thanks.